Thanks, everyone. Thank you for coming to hear me share the story of Fluid Biomed. We are developing the world's first polymer stent to cure brain aneurysms. We are an early-stage VC-backed medical device startup, launching our first-in-human clinical trial and a $10 million Series A round. So the founders are the inventors of the technology, as well as medical experts in the domain. My name is John Wong. I'm co-founder and CEO of Fluid Biomed. I'm a neurosurgeon, a practicing neurosurgeon in Canada, Calgary, Canada. I trained in Canada as well at Yale University, and I completed my MBA at Wharton. My co-founder is Dr. Ali Mitha. He's president and CTO. Besides also being a neurosurgeon, perhaps more importantly, he's a biomedical engineer, having trained at Harvard, and it's this technology, this science that we developed together in the laboratory that we're spinning out towards commercialization. You can see a bunch of logos on the bottom. We've been in a number of accelerators, most recently Medtech Innovator in California, a superb program run by Paul Grand. So the unmet clinical and market need here is that of a brain aneurysm. A brain aneurysm is a bubble on a blood vessel. It's a weakness that can burst and cause a potentially devastating stroke. I see patients like this all the time because, again, we run a very busy practice focused on treating people with this terrible disease. Brain aneurysms affect up to 1 in 20 people. So if this conference had 2,000 people, 40 to 50 of us actually are walking around with a brain aneurysm we don't know about. Brain aneurysms are pretty common. In fact, President Biden had 2 aneurysms treated, as well as Emilia Clarke from Game of Thrones, so both younger and older people. Unfortunately, if your aneurysm bursts, it's fatal in about 1/3 of people, and many patients need repeated procedures. And with a prevalence of about 4 to 5%, that's a huge total addressable market, and the brain aneurysm device market currently already sits at $1 billion, likely to double in the next 5 to 10 years. I also want to differentiate our technology. Aneurysms are now treated with these stents, and that's our product, a stent. But brain stents are very different from the more common stent, a heart stent, a cardiac stent. A cardiac stent has been around for decades. It's almost now a commodity. A bare metal stent retails for about $400 to $500. That's not the case with a neurovascular stent. Neurovascular stents, highly specialized niche market, you might say, but each stent retails for over $12,000 plus. So again, a very high margin product that really attracts the attention of the major medical device manufacturers. So perhaps in the next 30 seconds here, I'm going to explain brain surgery to you. How do we treat a brain aneurysm? Well, conventional aneurysm treatment now is basically using devices that go from the inside of the blood vessel. And on the left there, you see coiling. Coiling is where we deliver a tiny microcatheter and a microwire into the bubble, into the aneurysm, and then release coils to plug up the aneurysm from the inside. What's the newer kid on the block is a stent, a flow diverting stent. That's what you see on your right side, a high density mesh stent. We don't need to go into the weakness. We put it into the normal blood vessel, and it diverts blood flow to the normal blood vessels of the brain. So stents are faster, they're more cost effective, and they use less radiation. And these are all really positive things. So stents are really revolutionized how we treat patients. But there are problems with the existing stents. They're made out of pure metal. And why is that important? Well, what's less well known, what's less well advertised, that after you put in a stent, aneurysms persist. They're still alive in 25 to 40% of patients. And this is a problem because after you put in a stent, you can't remove it. From a physician standpoint, this leaves very few choices for the patient after stent failure. And from a payer standpoint, these repeated procedures that are necessary lead to higher costs to the system and risk to the patient. So what has our company done? We've addressed all these issues with Resolve. This is a very unique polymer-based stent technology, and this is a highly magnified view of our stent. It's a very fine stent. Each one of those strands there is about a human hair in thickness, so it's a marvel of engineering, and what we've created is basically a polymer-based stent that's buttressed by some metal to provide it radial force and visibility on X-rays. So again, Resolve is the world's first polymer-based brain stent, and what we're addressing here is, again, the market of a brain aneurysm. You can see in the cartoon there a bubble, the weakness, and what doctors like myself and my co-founder do nowadays on a routine basis is access blood vessels under X-rays And then we position tiny microcatheters and microwires into the blood vessels of the brain under X-ray. This is done as an inpatient procedure. After we're positioned, we then release a stent, a flow diverting stent. Again, it diverts blood flow, and the blood will then pass into normal blood vessels of the brain, but slows down blood flow inside of the aneurysm, causing it to gently clot off and then heal over time. Now, as opposed to the pure metal stents, ours is made out of polymer, so it disappears over time, leaving very little footprint behind. Why is this important? Well, because we're made out of polymer, we're the only polymer-based technology compared to all the other metal stent competitors out there. The polymer itself is radically different, but it allows for revolutionary versatility for physicians in that now, because it's soft, the stent is so soft, it's shapeable. We can actually use it to treat many types of aneurysms, not just a few types. As well, this polymer itself is very compatible with other devices. And remember before I talked about coiling versus a stent? We can actually do both with our product overall. So this really provides reassurance to the physician and the patient that their disease is well treated. Because the polymer is radiolucent, meaning it's invisible on X-rays, we can now do non-invasive testing as well. And because the polymer disappears over time, there's no need for lifelong blood thinners. We look at our technology as a foundation of a platform. On your left there, we've actually demonstrated in our animal models, almost 100 animal models at this point, up to 3 years, long-term aneurysm cure. And we're very focused on brain disease because we're brain surgeons, but there's no reason why our technology can't be leveraged to other areas of the body. We have a very favorable IP and tech transfer position. We've been issued a broad-based patent in Canada. Again, we're based in Canada, and Wilson Sonsini is helping us with our claims for the USPTO. The US PTO has issued a patent for our proprietary stent delivery system, and also highlight that the IP is wholly controlled by the company. We're university professors. The university is a minority equity shareholder, but there is no pre-existing licensing or royalty obligation. We're small but mighty. We have a diverse and effective team. We have, at this point, about 10 employees, mostly engineering-based, very dedicated and passionate to creating something that's radically different on a very capital-efficient basis. And you can see our advisory board there is diverse by sector as well as by expertise. This is our pathway of execution. We're at the end of the green now. With our VC-backed round, we are now starting first-in-human trials, and that's going to be a very exciting prospect for us. We are imminent in actually implanting our product in an ex-US jurisdiction, and stay tuned for information about that. I'll also point out that although we will need to conduct further pivotal trials, comparable acquisition exits have occurred between $150 to $380 million for comparable technologies acquired by the strategics, all pre-FDA approval. In terms of our past financing traction, we are VC-backed. Shangbei in Palo Alto is Medicine Innovative in Miami. And we're launching our Series A round, essentially all geared towards conducting our first-in-human and safety human clinical trial. So our unfair advantage is we're domain experts. I know aneurysms like the back of my hand. I've been in practice for decades at this point. We have a rich network of KOLs that we can work with. My co-founder's lab conducts world-leading research in bio-resorbables. We have a very favorable tech transfer position. And clinical trials, we were just highlighted in the New York Times, our university, very complimentary article, but the next phase, clinical trials, and we're really excited by that prospect. Thank you very much for listening.